by none other than Carroll Shelby. And that is big accolades. The place resurrected in 2000, and that's where we are today for round 4 of the 2021 Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Lamborghini Super Trofeo Huracans on the racetrack right now. Where is VIR? Tucked away just outside of Danville, Virginia, and Alton, Virginia, just north of the North Carolina border, about an hour and a half north of Greensboro. 3.27 miles, 17 turns, and several places to pass, but an incredibly challenging racetrack. That hard on the brakes down into turn 1. You can get a pass done there, maybe even to turns 3 and 4. And then the climbing S's up through turn 10, 147 miles an hour. Then a quick left into what's known as Oak Tree or turn 12. Down the long back straight, approaching 170 miles an hour before the braking zone of turn 14. Then the roller coaster down through turn 17, also known as Hogpen, and a lap around VIR is complete. Cars on the racetrack right now. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Brian Till along with Jeremy Shaw. And Jeremy, if race 2 is anything like race 1, it's going to be a barn burner.
Well, there was lots of drama this morning. It started very early on. We had some incidents, but there was also a couple of changes to the positions at the end of the race. There was a penalty for the number 16 car, which finished second on the road. As a result of that penalty, it fell to third position. So Jacob Edson and Stephen Agacani finished second this morning, with Richard Antonucci winning the race.
The field behind the safety cars, they head up through the climbing S's. Jeremy, take us through the grid.
There's 26 cars we're expecting this afternoon. Let's start at the back. We've got 6 LB Cup category cars, 7 AM contenders, 5 Pro-Ams and 8 Pros. So all running in the same car, but 4 different classes of driver. Number 7, Mark Issa and Gianno Turino in car number 88, bringing up the tail of the field. Tom Kerr, number 74, and Nelson Piquet Jr., ex-Formula 1 driver, on row 12. Scott Wellham and Cesar Baccarella, car number 82 and number 11 on row 11. Number 62, Bill Pelichewski and Bart Collins in car number 4 on row 10. Row 9 is Mark Kawami, who is the second best of the LB Cup contenders, behind Matt Dickin, who will start 2 places ahead of him on the grid in car number 36. Between them on the grid is Randy Saleri in the car number 03. Ashton Harrison will start in the 15th position. Ahead of her on row 7, Claude Signoretti and Jordan Missig in car number 51 and 53. Row 6 is Alan Metney on the outside, car number 99, and Victor Gomez in car number 29. Row 5, Alec Udell in car number 48, and Dario Capitano in car number 22. On the 4th row of the grid, it's the best of the AM qualifiers. That's Luke Berkeley in car number 23, 17 years of age. His first pole position, alongside Danny Formal in car number 1. Max Wearing in car number 61 and Brian Ortiz in car number 46 will share row 3, but Ortiz is the best of the Pro-Am qualifiers. Sergio Jimenez in car number 44 and Stephen McAleer in car number 16 on row 2. On the front row of the grid, the first 2 positions in this morning's race, Jacob Edson in car number 6, and on the pole position for the 19th time is Richard Antonucci for Dream Racing Motorsport in car number 27.
An impressive field indeed. And talk about impressive, Richard Antonucci in that purple Bit Bull number 27. Very impressive as he walked the field this morning. Can he do it again this afternoon? Very different track conditions. It brings the field down slowly, really kind of playing games on the start this morning. Perhaps the officials having some words with him, and he's doing it again. A lot of brake checking going on. The field stacked up, getting to the start zone, but this is a very slow start as Antonucci brings them down. He'll look for the start zone up here. You'll see some cones off to driver's right. Once he gets there, he is clear to go, and the green flag will fly, and there he goes. Pulls the trigger on 620 plus horsepower, the V10 in the back of this Lamborghini Super Trofeo Evo. The Huracans down into turn 1, and Antonucci doesn't have it nearly as easy as he did this morning. Stephen McAleer in the light blue and white number 16 up alongside as they head to turn 3 and 4.
That's a great start there by Stephen McAleer, but he's got the outside line going to turn 3. That's the wrong place to be. Antonucci retakes the lead on the inside line now. All sorts of shuffling position there. Jacob Edson making a move to the inside as well.
And McAleer, one tough customer, not having anything to do with it. Edson thinks better of it, gives the position up. Now McAleer has the line as they head up through the S's. Difficult to get a pass done here, but on these cold Pirelli tires right now, treacherous. These cars do have anti-lock brakes and traction control, Jeremy, but still a handful. You think of 620 plus horsepower, and as they head up this hill, it is flat out all the way to this left-hand kink at 147 miles an hour, or the right-hand kink, I should say, then on the brakes just a tad, 110 through the left-hander, then through Oak Tree, one of the slowest corners on the racetrack, and down the back straightaway. And look at Antonucci already pulling out a lead and already a problem.
Yeah, somebody spun off the road.
That's the 51.
The entrance to the Oak Tree turns at the north end of the racetrack. But Antonucci, that was a great start. He's controlled it now. He kind of lost the lead momentarily, but has regained it now and pulling away on this first lap. The best of the Pro-Am cars, Brian Ortiz for the Precision Performance Motorsports team in car number 46, running in 5th position.
I'm wondering if that was Claude Cineretti in the 51 off there. It's a very distinctive green, white, and red livery, and that's the livery that looked like was on that car. They finished 5th this morning, Laura Spinelli, his teammate, and as they cycle through timing and scoring, I'm not seeing the 51 crossing the line, so perhaps it is indeed Cineretti that has had the problem up at Oak Tree. But what a start for Richard Antonucci. And Jeremy, he's a driver that helped develop this Lamborghini Super Trofeo Huracan Evo. How much does that mean experience-wise when you throw him in the field of these other drivers?
A lot. He's got a massive amount of mileage in these cars, and he is American, but he was born and raised in Italy. Lives now in Hawaii, I believe, but so he's a bit of a world traveler, is Richard, but a huge amount of experience in these cars. This morning, he took his 16th victory in his 54th start in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America, so there is no one more experienced in this field than he, and he's taking full advantage of it this afternoon again.
Talk about taking advantage. Luke Berkeley taking advantage of that start. He leads in the AM category there in the 23 that just flashed by. A problem for him this morning. Had a good run going, but then cut down a right rear tire. The car spun off into the grass, and his day was done. He was second in the first round at COTA, then 6th, 8th here this morning, but a good qualifying with the pole position in the AM category. He's trying to fight his way back. You and I were talking about that before the race. For young race car drivers, what they really need to do when they've got the talent, when they've got the speed, but they just experience a little bad luck. Easier said than done, but they have to put it behind them.
They do, and he's obviously clearly a very talented young man. Is Luke? He's he will be a high school senior next year, just finishing off in 11th grade, believe it or not. And here he is driving one of these glorious supercars, these Lamborghinis. And but where was Antonucci?
I believe he is somewhat checked out further down the road. That green, white, and red Lamborghini, the third in the shot, is not the 51. I believe that indeed it may have been Cineretti that was off up at Oak Tree as side by side heading into 125. Ashton Harrison, good run for her. Really, really, I think coming along. That Harrison contracting with Wayne Taylor Racing Lamborghini Paramus entry. And she had that victory the second round at COTA, and I really think it lit a fire. A little problem this morning finishing 7th, but a good run going right now in the AM category.
Yeah, so it battles all the way up and down this field, and it's just a glorious day for racing. It is pretty toasty out there. I know a lot of the drivers are getting pretty hot inside these cars. It's a real workout. I mean, it's a very physical, demanding racetrack at the best of times, and when it's as hot and humid as it is here this afternoon at VIR, this is a real workout.
Sergio Jimenez in the 44, that metallic blue 44, headed down the back straightaway. Problems this morning from the get-go. He and Laura Spinelli in the 51, a little argument at Oak Tree, and Jimenez got the worst of it. Damaged car, and he did not finish. Spinelli, for his part in it, got a penalty, a drive-through penalty that was assessed. So right now, Jimenez wants to have a good race, wants to get back in the championship hunt. He certainly lost some ground with the problem that he had this morning.
He did, most unfortunate for him there. He was the innocent victim there of a somewhat optimistic pass, and that cost him a lot of ground in the championship. But having a good run here in that 4th position, this big train of cars kind of in the middle of the pack here. Some great racing going on, all sorts of different categories of drivers in there, but as we said earlier on, all running this same car. It's just down to who can get the best out of it.
Bart Collins in the second car in the shot there in the 4, leading in LB Cup. We said there are 4 different classes, but I think the thing that is so important to note is that it is the same Lamborghini Huracan's Super Trofeo Evo in the hands of every driver, whether this is their first race weekend in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo or their 21st weekend. And that's the thing I think it's kind of cool. You can go play golf with a golf pro, and he's probably going to play from the shorter tees with you, but the less experienced drivers here are hitting from the tips just like they would be with a PGA pro. They're all using the same equipment and playing from the same tee box, if you will. And that's really a handful and a shout out to the talent and the determination of these newer drivers in LB Cup in the AM category, that they're taking on the same machinery. I was talking to Nelson Piquet Jr. earlier today, and he said, this car is a handful and there is so much for me to learn. If that's coming from him, Jeremy, what about a driver that only has 6 months to a year under their belt?
Yeah, there's quite a few of those in this field, including the AM championship leader, Luke Berkeley, just 17 years of age, just had his 17th birthday a couple of weeks ago. The opening rounds of this year's championship at Circuit of the Americas a couple of weeks ago, that was his first ever race. He's done a fair bit of karting. He did a lot of testing over the last year or so, both in a Formula 4 open wheel car and the Lamborghini, but that was his first proper race. And here he is now, just 2 races later, qualifies on the pole position and is leading Alan Metney who's in second place in the AM category and in the top 10 overall. That's a really good effort for that youngster, kind of a 23, Luke Berkeley from Florida.
Absolutely. And as you watch the 44 trying to hold off the 46, a problem for the 62, heavy contact with the tire wall. That's the LB Cup entry out of Kelly Moss. Let's see if we can see what happens. That's coming down through the roller coaster just at the turn in for Oak Tree. That's heavy contact with the tire wall on the outside. I didn't see the right side wheels, but I'm going to think that perhaps right side wheels dropped over that apex curb on the right there for Bill Pelichewski, and that's what sent his Kelly Moss Road and Race Lamborghini San Francisco entry off the track. And everything here at VIR seems to be downhill. Here's a look at it again from a different view, down through the roller coaster. And as you come down the hill here, car goes back driver's right. He gets on the curb there and loses it early, and off he goes. So it wasn't the right-hand apex curbing, it was the left-hand apex curbing, and that sends Pelichewski into the tires. We'll have to have a full course caution. It brings out the first full course caution of the day. So the lead that Richard Antonucci had, it is gone. And you always wonder, I mean, you want the biggest lead you can in case you catch lap traffic or what have you, but you worry in weather like this. It's very warm today, Jeremy. It's like, how much do you need to lead by? You certainly don't want to burn the car down, use the tires up by leading, by fighting to stay in front. I don't think Richard Antonucci, with his experience, would do that. I think he's out there driving at what he feels to be a comfortable pace. But with a full course caution, it all goes away. So you wonder, how much do you use to stay there in front?
Yeah, well, that's a very good point. And, because it is so hot here, these tires are getting a workout around here. We saw this morning, there were a couple of incidents out on the racetrack, some contact between cars, and it punctured a tire. And, when the cars are going to have to work hard, there's a propensity for damage.
Well, you talk about this morning. This is the start from this morning, and deja vu all over again. Antonucci with the lead, but look at this battle here between the 6 of Stephen Agacani and the 16 of Stephen McAleer down through the S's. Actually, I think it was Jacob Edson on board. They had a great run going, and they're going to use some traffic to get it done as well. A little bump, a little nudge there, and McAleer off to the outside. But I talked to him afterwards, and he just said, hey, we're having really good hard racing, and with these cars, you've got to get it done from turn in to apex on the brakes. Richard Antonucci certainly knows that. We talked about it. He's helped develop this car, but it was a great run this morning. But, Jeremy, I've got to think this is a very different racetrack. The track temperature is a lot warmer. The ambient air temperature is warmer. And talking to some of the teams about cooling, I wonder about running up behind another car for an extended period of time and what that is going to do to engine temperatures.
Yeah, very good point. It's certainly something that they're going to have to pay attention to. But that's I think these cars. This is the second year of this the Evo car, which is the third year of the Evo car. Remember, time flies, doesn't it, when you're having fun? And certainly this series is a lot of fun. So they've had plenty of opportunities to run these cars in hot conditions, and the team that is leading this race, Dream Racing Motorsport, they're based out in Las Vegas, so they're used to these sort of hot conditions. They don't have the humidity in Las Vegas, certainly, but they're certainly used to very, very high temperatures. So these cars have been extensively developed. I don't think that should be a problem, as you say, but with the exception that when they are running very, very close behind another car, you need to kind of duck out a little bit and make sure you get some slightly cooler air running through those radiators to keep those engines within sensible temperature limits.
Well, talking to the guys over at the Wayne Taylor Racing entries throughout the 4 cars that they have in the field, they run an ancillary fan on the radiator. You see those big ducts there just above the Bud Light logo on Stephen McAleer's car. That's the exhaust as the air goes through the radiator up and through those ductings. All the WTR cars, the Wayne Taylor Racing cars, have auxiliary fans sitting on top of the radiators. And in a situation like this, where the speed is lower and there are other cars around, you can turn those fans on and draw more air up through those radiators to try to keep the temperatures down, because a lot of times it's not running at speed behind somebody, because you do get some air then. It's running in full course caution conditions like this, where you don't have the airflow that you normally would.
Well, that's a very good point, and certainly now running under these conditions right now, there isn't nearly so much air going through there, so that is something you can do to keep these temperatures in check here. But that was a really interesting, I think, first beginning of this race. The first 6 laps now in the books, and 36 minutes are remaining in this 50-minute race. And there is going to be one mandatory pit stop, which can take place anytime after 20 minutes into the race and before 20 minutes from the end of this race. And that pit stop has to be made by every car in this race. We've already seen that there are some teams have 2 drivers per car. Some have just one driver who's driving solo all the way through the 50-minute race, but all cars have to make a pit stop. Those drivers that are running solo, their pit stop has to be 3 seconds longer, and that is a minimum time from pit in, when they come into the pit lane, to where they leave the pit lane. It has to be 3 seconds longer for solo drivers than dual drivers. The reason for that, well, the drivers who have to get into the car at half distance, they are not familiar with the racetrack, how the car is handling, nearly so much as is a driver who's done the first half of the race. So that's a kind of a handicap it's going to take you when you go out fresh and halfway through this race. You've got to kind of get used to the track conditions, see how it's changed maybe from this morning's race, which was running significantly cooler conditions. And so that 3 second differential, that's kind of the equivalency formula, if you like, in order to try and even things out a bit for those in favor of the drivers who are getting in fresh halfway through this race.
We talk about 4 different classes. To take a quick opportunity to say Richard Antonucci leading in the 27 in the pro category. Then Brian Ortiz, he shares that car with Brandon Godovic, the 46 entry. They lead in the Pro-Am category. They're 5th on the racetrack, but they're the leaders in Pro-Am. Then you step back to the 10th position, Luke Berkeley, who you've spoken a lot about, Jeremy, in the AM category, leads in his number 23 entry. And then back in LB Cup, it's the number 4 leading there. And that's a look back through. And I just still find it so interesting that it's the same tool that every one of these drivers is using, regardless of the amount of experience that you may or may not have. And I find that fascinating. As someone who likes airplanes, it's like going flying with your buddy who happens to be a military pilot, but you're not going and flying in your Cessna. You're going and flying in his F-22 Raptor, and that's what we've got here. We've got massively experienced professional drivers using the exact same equipment that less experienced drivers have, and the racing has been phenomenal. I think the other thing, Jeremy, and you've been a part of it. You've seen it more than I, and that is the growth of the series and the depth of the talent that we see in Lamborghini Super Trofeo these days.
Well, it's fantastic. I mean, these are the highest, biggest fields we've ever seen in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo series, which now goes back, 8 years this series has been running in North America. We had a field of 30 cars for the first rounds at Circuit of the Americas a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately, these two races at VIR, they were put on the schedule fairly late as a result of a couple of rounds at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park north of the border being postponed or cancelled for this season because of the pandemic. So instead, this race was put on the schedule, and unfortunately, a couple of drivers already had commitments for this weekend elsewhere. So we're a couple of cars down here compared to last time out, but still 28 cars. That's more than the largest field we'd had in the previous. In the previous history of this championship. So it is super competitive right now, and we've seen some tremendous racing as a result of that.
Absolutely. And we also saw the 62 on the flatbed. You see it there at the top of the shot, and that is good news. That means that car of Bill Pelichowski now out of the way. Any tire wall repair that needs to be done has already begun and hopefully is about to be finished. We're inside what would normally be the pit window. It's a 50-minute race, and once you get 25 minutes in, you can pit, and then the pit window closes at 35 minutes in. So you've got that window that you can operate in, but if there is a full course caution, the window stays closed and no one is allowed to pit. So these drivers right now know that when we go back to green flag racing, they'll have to take the green flag on the racetrack, but as soon as the last car passes pit in, the pit lane will open and that pit window will open, and they'll have 10 minutes to get the job done.
Yeah, that'll be coming up. And once the teams are not allowed to make their mandatory pit stop during the full course caution. In fact, they have to take the green flag on the racetrack at the restart before they're allowed to pit. So when we go back to green, we will not see cars coming into pit right away. They will have to complete one lap and then make their pit stop. At any time after that is when they will be able to take that stop. Any cars that do come in on the lap at which we go back to green, that will incur a penalty and an additional drive through the pit lane.
And it's actually, I misspoke, it's actually 20 minutes into the race to 30 minutes into the race, not 25 and 35. So the pit window in this 50-minute race will open at the 30-minute mark. And so we're coming up on it right now. We're not quite there, 31 minutes and 18 seconds to go in the race. So the pit window should be opening shortly, but as we've said, they'll have to take the green flag first. It'll be interesting to see the lights out on the safety car. So this is good news. Should be going back to green this time. And Richard Antonucci has really been playing some games on the starts and the restarts, speeding up, slowing down, the accordion effect. Typically the race director is not particularly fond of that. He wants a constant speed. When the safety car pulls away and leaves the field at that speed, that's the speed that the leader should carry down the hill. No more tire warming, no more tire scrubbing. It should be that speed in a single file line into the restart zone and go. And that's a much better restart by Richard Antonucci than what we had seen before. That gives everybody a good run down the front straightaway and gives them a little bit of separation as they head down the front straightaway towards turn one. To Antonucci with that lead on the restart, making good of that position that he has. But talk about trying to gain positions. There's the 6 and forcing their way through, gets it done. Jacob Edson past the 44 and gets a position, moves forward to third.
Actually, he was in third. It was the number 44 trying to make a move on the number 6. And you're right, as they crossed the line, Jimenez actually was nosing ahead, but Jacob Edson had the inside line for turn 1. He's able to hold on to third position. Right behind them, that pair is Brian Ortiz in the best of the Pro-Am cars. Then the youngster from Holland, Max Weering, who's coming back from a big crash he had on Friday in practice. And then the second of the Pro-Am cars, Dario Capitanio, making his debut in this championship this weekend in car number 22. That's teammates to Richard Antonucci in the lead.
That right-hand bend that you just saw the drivers go through, 147 miles an hour, touch the brakes down to 110 through the left-hander, up towards Oak Tree. one of the slowest corners on the racetrack, and then get the power down. And every driver that I've spoken to, especially the new drivers, Nelson Piquet Jr. said the same thing. It's brakes and tires that these drivers need to learn. Kyle Marcelli was saying, I feel like the harder I push, the slower I go. It's almost a tire that doesn't like a lot of load on it in the middle of the corner, and you've got to get the car slowed down, get it turned, settle it in the middle of the corner, and then accelerate straighter off the corner and not try to really load the tire all the way through the turn. And it's little nuances like that, Jeremy, little tricks of the trade that finds you tenths of a second. It's the other thing that saves the tire and keeps you from wearing it out as the pit window is open. And cars now coming to pit lane, and a car off. That's the 4. That had been our leader in LB Cup. Bart Collins, Porsche GT3 Cup experience, some SCCA Majors experience in GT2, and now he had the lead, but off there at Hogpen. I don't know if he was trying to come in and got together with somebody, or was trying to come in and lost it. Just got the shot late, but Collins off to the outside there.
Yeah, he is. And here's a pit stop for the Pro-Am leader. Then it'll be Brian Ortiz getting out of that car, and Brandon Godovic getting in the car. And I talked about Richard Antonucci being the most experienced driver in this field. In actual fact, he isn't. Brandon Godovic has 70 previous starts coming into this race this afternoon. And this is a car that won this morning, the Lamborghini Palm Beach entry, entered by Precision Performance Motorsports from it's a locally based team. And they are in there looking for their second win of the day. Richard Antonucci also makes his pit stop, the erstwhile overall race leader. Jacob Edson stayed out in car number 6, so he will lead going in with now 9 laps completed.
I wonder if Jacob Edson felt like he's got clean racetrack in front, so why not see if you can put in a qualifying type lap or 2 and build some gap over those who just pitted. Tires had cooled down just a little bit because of that full course caution. Maybe he felt like he had a really good car underneath him and he just needed some clean racetrack. But Antonucci now will have clean sailing in front of him, and he'll be right back on it. Put on a clinic this morning, and he's won here before, Jeremy, and he did it again this morning. And like I said, with the experience that he has in type and the experience he has on this racetrack, it's a very formidable opponent. But right there behind him, not letting him get away, I believe that's the 16. Indeed it is, up through the S's. And I love that shot of them coming up through that first right-hand section, up and over the curb, in the car, at least the right side of the car, up in the air.
Yeah, so there is Jacob Edson is out of that car. His distinctive helmet there, a former champion in the Porsche series, a former. They missed out this pairing on the championship last year just by a couple of points, having come back from a few miscues earlier in the season. And it'll be Stephen Agakani, another youngster, just 18 years of age, who will take over at the helm of that number 6 car for the second part of this race. But Jordan Missig, another youngster in the Pro-Am car for Wayne Taylor Racing, car number 53, he leads the race overall and is still in the lead in the Pro-Am category. But the Pro-Am hoping to take over the lead is that number 46 car. It's already made his pit stop. He's going to come around to complete one more lap.
Interesting, the different strategies, and we spoke with ANSA Motorsport. And you talked about it earlier, Jeremy, about how some racers already had commitments in Europe this weekend. But for ANSA Motorsport, it was also an opportunity to put Sergio Jimenez in one car, Nelson Piquet Jr. in another car, and separate them and run 2 single driver entries and just see if perhaps there was an advantage to doing that. So you test and you try to learn even when your regulars aren't there. Try to learn something else and see if you might be able to find an advantage, so that as a team, you can find victory lane.
Yeah, that's the plan. And different strategies will play out during this race.
Move to the inside, the 29 looking to the inside, gets it done past the 36. That's the other thing. You have these single driver entries and then the duo driver entries. When you come back out on the racetrack, as you've said, the single driver is warmed up, is ready to go. And if you're in the same class with a dual driver entry, that fresh driver out there on the racetrack is something that you might want to see if he's in front of you, because you know he's going to learn and you're already ready to go. Jordan Missick now in the 53.
Yeah, so he gives up the lead. There's still a couple of cars that haven't yet pitted. Well, I think that they are in this time around right now. So Jordan Missick leads. Bart Collins has actually stayed out in the LB Cup car, number 4 for MCR Racing. He is carrying the colours of the Miami dealership here. He leads the race at the moment. He's the last car that has yet to make a pit stop. Also in on this lap is the AM contender Randy Solari in car number 03. And also the two more LB Cup contenders, Tom Kerr and Scott Wellham in car number 74 and 82, also in on this lap.
Bart Collins, like you said, leading overall in an LB Cup entry, but yet to pit. He'll hand that car over to Michael Manella. That's the MCR Lamborghini Miami entry. And MCR, another new team to Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America this season. We've seen Kelly Moss Road and Race come over. We've seen MCR. Great to have them here. Torino Racing, TR3 Racing is here. And it's one of those deals where, as the series has grown and the competition has gotten stronger, it's actually attracted more teams. And I think that's awesome. And it says a lot about the teams that do show up. They show up knowing it's going to be difficult, knowing that getting to the podium is going to be a tall order, but they come because they want that type of competition that the series provides.
Hey, look, yeah, you're only as good as the people you beat, aren't you? And right now, you've got to be pretty good to win one of these races. And we've seen, as a result of those pit stops, the top 3 cars seem to be pretty closely matched now. Richard Antonucci still leads from Steve Agacani, but not by very much. And Stephen McAleer is right there behind them, and Sergio Jimenez as well in car number 44. So Michael Manella, he's going to, Bart Collins, I should say, he stays out one more lap. He's going to lead 12 laps here. There's still another couple of minutes to go before the window closes. So he's going to take full advantage of that, is Bart, before he comes onto pit lane to hand over this car to Michael Manella.
That beautiful red number 4 with the checkers on it as a problem for the 7. Big spin, and then back in the right direction. That's Espinoza in the 7. Let's see, out of Oak Tree. Car gets up on the curb, hits a bump, and then starts getting sideways. He tries to hold it, Jeremy, or keep it where it needs to be, but I think he stays in the throttle. And with the rear end of that Lamborghini Huracan bouncing around like that, it was like literally being on the mechanical bull. And Espinoza goes around, but gets it back underway, gets it back on track, and is none the worse for wear, it doesn't appear.
He's got away with it, which is certainly a stroke of luck.
And off he goes. And you got to believe the 4 knows they need to come this time. They can't go past the pit in another time, or the pit window will close. There's only 46 minutes, or 46 seconds, I should say, left in the window. Now 40. He's got to get down through the roller coaster and into the pit lane before this next 32 seconds is up. And that shouldn't be a problem as long as he knows it's going to be there. And there he is. Collins now in. That will change the leaderboard. Understand that 51 will have a drive-through penalty for a short pit stop.
That's the same. They had the same problem this morning, and that's the car that it's the quickest car on the racetrack, conceivably, because certainly yesterday, Loris Spinelli, who's hugely experienced in these cars, he put that car on pole position. For the first race this morning, he was kind of beaten away from the start by Richard Antonucci this morning, but that car is certainly very, very fast, and they had that. He had a penalty first of all for contact with another car, then for a short pit stop as well. So it's been an action-packed day for that team. So they'll be looking to bounce back. Oh, there's Jordan Missick. Yeah, that was the car that was leading before. He was the last of the contenders to make his pit stop, or the second last of the contenders to make his pit stop. And he has now had a spin as well, having rejoined the race after his stop. Oops, did he get some help?
I think he got some help from the 88.
Gianni Torino, I think, who was leading in the in the AM. He was actually in second position in the AM category, right behind Luke Berkeley.
Pit window now closed, and the 4 played it to the bitter end, but they were in during their stop. The window closed. That's fine as long as you're in before it closes. The 53 still trying to get started down there. You see the fire out of the back of one of these cars when they're trying to restart. It looks scary, and certainly it could be if it continued to burn, but what that typically is raw fuel that's been dumped into the hot exhaust, and as the engine is turning over trying to be fired, it pumps that fresh fuel through the hot exhaust and it ignites, and it just kind of shoots the fire into the air. So it seems a little daunting if you're standing beside the racetrack or you see it on television, but once the engine is fired, that fire goes away. The fire not going away in the drive for the number 6 or the 16 just behind. Aga Khan now behind the wheel of the 6 and the 16 right there behind him.
Yeah, they're trying to hang on as best they can, but Richard Antonucci just stretched the lead now over the last couple of laps over Aga Khan. Last lap before the race leader, 1 minute 47.022. That's somewhere away from, it's not quite his fastest lap of the race that has been set. The best lap in this race so far was a 146.6 that was set a few laps ago by Antonucci, but 147.0 is within 3.5 tenths of a second of that. So he's pushing hard, is Antonucci, and he has to, because Aga Khan is charging along in the second position, and he has got his mirrors full of that Bud Light car of Stephen McAleer for Change Racing in car number 16.
Up through the climbing S's, and how frustrating is it, Jeremy, when you're out there and you're driving to your limit, and yet the car in front of you just keeps moving away and the car behind you just keeps getting closer? What kind of mental focus do you have to just make sure that you don't fall to the temptation to do something that you and or your car are just not capable of doing?
Yeah, well, that's when a driver, you really find out how good a driver is. Can he focus forward? A lot of drivers, particularly those with lesser experience, they'll kind of look in their mirrors and see what's going on behind them, and as a result of that, they'll miss their braking point or make a mistake of some sort and fall off the road. So you've got to focus forward. Don't worry about what the guys behind is doing. You concentrate on what you're doing. Keep your pace, run as fast as you can, and chase that guy in front of you.
Speaking of chase that car in front of you, a look at the 23, Luke Berkeley. We spoke about him earlier, and such a disappointing run he had this morning with that cut down tire, and it happened at just the wrong time. He was just turning in to turn 3. The right rear went down. I think it had been going before that, but it let loose just about the turn in. The car sat down on the rim. The car spun around, ended up on the grass. Day done, just too far to drive around. Even if he could have gotten it out of the grass, too far to drive around on the rim to get back to the pit lane. And that was day done for Berkeley, but a good run right now. A little bit of retribution, running in 10th overall and leading in the AM category.
He's doing a really good job. Gianni Torino, another youngster, both of those two 17 years of age, the two youngest drivers in the field, first and second in the AM category. Gianni Torino, he started at the back of the pack, having had didn't have a transponder on the car for qualifying, so he had set no time, had to start at the back. Did the same again in this afternoon's race as well. He's worked his way up into second place in car number 88, and he's now within a couple of seconds, so he's closing on Barkley, and that's going to be a battle also for position before too long in this race. Antonucci, who still leads, coming down the roller coaster towards Hogpen to complete lap 16. There's still 15 minutes remaining in this race, so still quite a long time to go in this race, but he's pulling away now from Aga Khan. The gap last time around was 3.1 seconds. Another quick lap from Antonucci. It was 146.7 last time around. This time 1 minute 47.3 for our race leader.
Seldom do you have a weekend that goes so smoothly. Richard Antonucci is having one of those. We saw the 53 off track just a few moments ago, Jordan Missig with his problem, and thought the 88 might be involved with the replay just coming into the shot. And indeed, that's what race control has confirmed. There will be a drive-through penalty for the 88 for incident responsibility. So that is not what Giano Torino wanted or needed to hear after having that good run running second in AM, as he'll have to report to pit lane.
Yeah, that's going to make a long afternoon for him, because he already just worked his way up through the field once. He's going to have to do it again now after serving this penalty. But clearly these two youngsters in Luke Berkeley and Giano Torino clearly have a lot of ability, and we're going to be seeing a lot more of them as this season progresses. Berkeley, having taken advantage of that pole position, having had the problem this morning, he was on the receiving end of a bump and went out of the race, but he's come back really strong this afternoon and is leading now. And for Torino, who took maximum points in this morning's race for the second round of the three we've had so far this season, he will now have some work to do to work his way back up through the order.
I think one of the other challenges, Jeremy, as watch Randy Solari in 0-3 up through the S's, and wow, the 6 saw some dirt. The 16 now in front. What happened there in the roller coaster? Because the order has changed as they come down the front straightaway. Was that lap traffic that created an issue and allowed the 16 by? We'll have to wait and see, but we also understand there will be some time penalties post-race because of short pit stops. If you're short on your pit stop time, they do give you a window, a margin for error. And if you're not outside that margin for error, they'll just take the time off, or add time, I should say, at the end of the race. The 44 will get 0.4 of a second added. The 47, 2.1. The 61, 2 seconds. And the 88, 1.5. So not only the issue with the 88 with incident responsibility on the racetrack, but also a pit stop that was too short.
Yeah, and whatever time you are short of that minimum mandated time, they double it up to 2 seconds. After that, it's a drive-through penalty. So they give you a bit of a fudge factor there, and just a 2 second penalty isn't that bad. Although the error this morning in the pit stop for the car that finished in second place, the number 1 of Carl Marcelli and Danny Formal, at the end of the race, they got a 0.6 of a second penalty, but the number 6 car of Agicani and Edson was within that at the close of the checkered flag, so they moved ahead in the final classification. So it's these teams that they're trying to push it to the limits, and they've had all the practice and qualifying sessions here, so they know how long they need to spend on pit lane. They know how long it takes to get from their pit box from a standstill in their pit box to get to the pit exit. So there's really no excuse for making those mistakes.
Ashton Harrison there, the red 25 between the other two Lamborghinis. That's the 51 who just went by her, Laura Spinelli. And we talk about being one of the fastest cars on the racetrack, trying to make up ground that was lost with the penalty there. But hats off to Ashton Harrison. We talked about that a little bit earlier, electing to go solo this year without a co-driver, and perhaps the additional seat time really paying off, because she has really entered the 2021 season on fire. Like I said, a 7th place finish this morning isn't what she wanted. She had a 3rd at COTA in round 1, then a win in round 2, and now a solid 2nd place run going on in the AM category in her Harrison Contracting, Wayne Taylor Racing entry. But a good run there, and I think really aware, and this is the other thing these drivers have to be, Jeremy, aware of who she's doing battle with. Very little push and shove with Laura Spinelli, because she knew that car isn't in her class. She's not racing that driver for points in her championship.
Yeah, that's right, and that's certainly something that she has to be mindful of. As we have another look here at the car number 23, that is Luke Berkeley, who leads the AM category for Dream Racing Motorsports. He's carrying the colors of the dealership in Broward County in Florida. The other Dream Racing Motorsports cars are running for Las Vegas, but he's running for Broward County. They've been super supportive of his racing so far. his dad has bought several Lamborghinis from that Broward dealership over the years, so they should be helping him. But he's doing a super job in the lead. There's one of the two Torino racing cars. They're both identically liveried in the colours of the Italian flag. One is the car number 51, which is Loris Spinelli, who we saw running super fast a little while ago. The other one, and that is Spinelli, who is off the road, isn't it?
It is,
yes.
And that's up at Oak Tree. So a problem a lot of times if you carry in just a little too much speed, the road is somewhat off camber at the track out between turn 11 and turn 12, and you carry just a little too much speed over the crown of that road, and the left side tires just drop off at the exit, and the car has enough momentum, it just pulls it off the racetrack and into the tire wall. Perhaps that's the problem. That's the other car.
That's Torino. Where's that? That's coming down the hill at the opposite end of the racetrack, isn't it? That's Gianno Torino, who's just served that drive-through penalty for the incident earlier on, just trying to carry a little bit too much speed down the hill. I think got up on that curb you talked about earlier on. That threw him across the other side of the road, hit the other curb, and then off the road. He's jolly lucky to keep that car out of the tire wall at the bottom of the hill.
Very lucky indeed. And I think that's one of the things you and I were talking about earlier, how to put problems behind you, literally in your rear view mirror, because if you're still thinking about them when you get to the next corner, you can't work your way through that corner the way that you need to. And that's one of the things that I think perhaps a lot of people misunderstand. Racing is as much a mental game as it is a physical game of wrestling one of these 620 plus horsepower cars around the racetrack. You've got to make sure that your mind is sharp and focused on where it's going, not where it's been.
Yeah, that's right. That's a very good sound advice there, Brian Till. Absolutely right.
Oh, if the younger me had just listened. Isn't that the way it always is? Jordan Missick back on track in the 53 after the problems that he had, and the car doesn't look damaged at all. And you'll get some satisfaction in knowing that the offender had to pay some type of a price, but still frustrating nonetheless. Not frustrating at all for Richard Antonucci. He's still out in front. Godovic leading in Pro-Am. And we talked about Berkeley in the 23 leading in the AM category, and in LB Cup, it's the number 47 entry. Mark Kwame, Terry Olson, another great run. They won the first race this weekend earlier this morning, and now they're running out front again. And Mark Kwame is a guy who's driven all different types of cars. Terry Olson driving in the IMSA Prototype Challenge Series this year as well, a completely different type race car than this one, Jeremy. And so to look at those two guys who've managed to come in here and really seem to have found a home with this Lamborghini Huracan Evo, I've been really impressed with the job that they've been able to do.
Yeah, they really have. And this morning they combined to get their first win. Actually, Terry Olson, I think, who qualified on pole position. No, he didn't actually. He was very close. We didn't quite manage it. But the car is fast. They did a good job this morning, brought home their first win of the season. And as a result of that, they lead the points coming into this fourth round of the championship.
Problem for Randy Solari, the 0-3. I can't tell if that's the turn 9-10 area. And there's that fire that we were talking about that gets belched out of the exhaust. Let's see. Yeah. Up through the S's, high-speed S's, and he's going to have a problem right here. Almost the Danny Sullivan, but yeah. I got it. I don't got it. And now Randy's going to go, well, you know, the easiest way to get back on the racetrack is I'll go over there. And lo and behold, it works. And I think that's one of these things. And different drivers have different takes on this. I think the officials will look at the lap time, and when it is considerably slower than what it was before, and the difficulties in getting a car with slick racing tires to get enough grip in the grass to climb a hill to get back on the racetrack. The officials would rather you just get out of harm's way and get back onto the racing surface in the most safe way possible. That just happened to be kind of across from where he spun, and he left out at least 2 corners of the racetrack by going in that direction.
Yeah, but he's now back on the grey stuff. It's the good news. The green stuff it might be kind of fun, but yeah, no, it's not the quickest way around this racetrack. All sorts of battles though down the field. This is a great battle going on between number 25, which is Ashton Harrison, in the Harrison Contracting with Wayne Taylor Racing entry. She is representing the dealership from Paramus in New Jersey, and these two side by side now. It's Alan Metney in car number 99 for Change Racing, who is looking to make a move. They're side by side as they head up toward the roller coaster, Brian.
He's going to try to keep her pinched down to the inside, and this is a difficult section because you think you want to be on the right side, then you want to be on the left side. And it's one of those deals where Metney experience on this racetrack this weekend in the Porsche GT3 Cup Series, another one-make series. So he has a lot of time on the racetrack, and I guarantee you he has passed more cars this weekend in that area. And once again, experience plays the trump card, and he knew exactly where he wanted to try to keep Ashton Harrison so that he could get the line. I said it's a very difficult section of the racetrack, a slight kink to the left, and then the turn to the right, falling off camber at the exit. And where you think you may want to be on the way in is not necessarily going to be the best line through, especially when you're fighting for position. Yeah,
so a great pass there by Metney and Ashton Harrison. Now she has to settle into third position. Whoops. To settle into third position there, Ashton. Don't throw it off the road, because Martin Fuentes, who is in 4th position in the AM category for TR3 Racing from Mexico City, making his return to the championship this season. He's only about a dozen seconds behind him, and we're only going to have, I think it's going to be white flag next time around, so almost 2 laps to go for these two. And Ashton Harrison, she's just got to settle down now and bring home this 3rd position. That'll do just nicely. Another podium finish for Ashton would be absolutely perfect.
Absolutely perfect, but I'm not sure the car is absolutely perfect right now, Jeremy. The car looks very, very twitchy all of a sudden. An odd place for it to break loose in between 3 and 4, the way that it did. And then there was another twitch and a kind of little jerk to the side as she turned in for 4. So I don't know if she might not have some type of an alignment or a tire issue on that 25 right now. But Metney has his sights set forward. He wants to keep moving towards the front. And just in front right now, the 62.
82, I think, probably was that.
82,
Scott Wellham, who's running toward the back of the back. He's having a good little battle there with Tom Kerr, who's just ahead of him on the racetrack. These two have been lapped by the leaders here, but they're having a good little battle. As I said before, there are battles all the way up and down this field. It's Richard Antonucci who has, I think, taken the white flag. I believe he's taken the white flag. I'll have to keep an eye on that when we see the flag next time around. But he leads by now 6 seconds over in 2nd place. Where's number 16 car?
I'm not sure. The 16 car has fallen down the order. We've lost it, but Richard Antonucci has lost nothing. No pace at all. He is still on it, closing down inside a minute to go. Richard Antonucci looking to bookend the weekend. He started it with race 1 and the victory there. Will he take victory number 2 on the weekend? And that would be victory number 3 for the season. He is making it known that he is in it to win it for the championship. As he comes down towards the line, will he have to do one more lap? I think he will, Jeremy, as the white flag flies. It's not over yet. Man, you almost feel like the team could have gone, hey, slow down a little bit so you don't have to do another lap. And you might be thinking, well, it doesn't really matter because there's no one really around, but anything can go wrong. In fact, as we saw Ashton Harrison and that group of 4 coming towards turn 1 just before we went to the shot of Antonucci down the back straightaway, there was some large piece of debris that came off of one of those cars. It is not over until it's over. And in fact, Antonucci has cars in front of him as they head up to the high-speed S's. He'll have to contend with those if he continues at this pace before he gets back to the start-finish line. It only takes one bobble, one mistake on the part of another competitor to get you involved. And that is certainly not something that Richard Antonucci wants to see. What we'd like to see is the 16, but he is nowhere to be found on the timing and scoring screen.
No, I don't know whether he came in the pits or what happened to Stephen McAleer, because he'd been running there in second place position. He'd pulled away, he'd overtaken and pulled away from Stephen Agacani in second place, but now Agacani has fallen behind Sergio Jimenez, so it's Jimenez up into second place, Agacani down to third.
Well, I wonder, when we saw the 16 and the 6 of Stephen Agacani come down through the roller coaster, and one of the cars was off the racetrack a little bit, and there had been a change of position. I wonder if there was contact that was made there and perhaps some damage to McAleer's number 16, as the checkered flag flies, and then Richard Antonucci, and there's the 16. There's the answer. He's right there underneath the flag. So that car is pulled all the way down to the end of pit lane, but Richard Antonucci makes it 2 for 2 in Virginia. And in the Pro-Am category, Brandon Godovic, you talk about all the starts he has in the championship, will add another victory for Brandon Godovic. He'll take the victory in the Pro-Am category, sharing that with Brian Ortiz, his teammate. They won the season opening round at COTA. They won earlier today, so they are 3 for 4 on the season. And the wins just keep coming. Luke Berkeley in the 23. He will celebrate the victory in AM. A good run and a good comeback. We talk about putting problems behind you. He put that problem from race number 1 here this morning behind him and takes the victory, but I'm not sure it's over in LB Cup just yet.
I don't think it is, and there's all sorts of great tussling going on here, isn't it? This is a tremendous race. Terry Olsen, I think, has just he has taken the checkered flag to win in LB Cup. They had been lapped by the overall race leader, Matt Dickin, who won this morning, settles for second position.
Yes, indeed.
Sorry, excuse me, he settles for second for the second time today. Let me correct that.
Yep. The 47 did indeed get to the line. Mark Kwame, Terry Olsen, they'll take another victory. And there's the 16. Look at the left rear. That tire cut down, and I've got to believe that that was a part of contact with the number 6 when we saw those cars coming down through the S's. We didn't really have a good shot of it, but there had been a change of position, and I wonder if that's where that cut down tire came from. You think about the dive planes and the front splitters on these Lamborghinis, and there's a lot of sharp objects up front, Jeremy, and you get this close wheel-to-wheel racing, and it's easy to cut down one of these tires. Look at the 27, looking for a photo opportunity, and I think a little bit of rubber pickup too. Anytime you see cars on the warm or the cool down lap coming in and they're driving way offline and trying to make sure that they seem to be driving someplace they would never typically drive, they're trying to pick up rubber and dirt because it has weight to it, and it also adds ride height. Just a little trick of the trade.
Yeah, so a great result there for that Bitbull team, and the first place overall victory for Richard Antonucci. He will extend his lead at the top of the Pro Driver Championship now, 55 points for him to the 40 of Stephen McAleer. Madison Snow, I think I mentioned him earlier, not driving this weekend. He was doing just occasional races, I think, in that Bud Light car. So Stephen McAleer driving solo. He's on 40 points. In the Pro-Am category, the Bitbull car, Dario Capitano, finished in second position behind Brandon Godovic and Brian Ortiz, who win for the third time in 4 races. They'll have 56 points to the 49 of Victor Gomez, who finished in third place this afternoon. In AM, a victory, the first one of the season for the pole sitter Luke Berkeley. He will now be much closer in 4th position in the points, but it'll be Alan Metney who leads the points lead after this event on 44 to 41 of Gianni Torino.
Race 2 highlights at the start. Antonucci letting it be known that he was going to be a force to be reckoned with, and a good run for Stephen McAleer there at the start as well. And then the action continues up at Oak Tree. 4 different classes, remember, and then the number 25, a good run. That's the 51, just behind the 25. Spinelli. And this is what Lamborghini Super Trofeo is all about. Look at this. When Alan Metney in the 99 finally gets by for that position, demotes Ashton Harrison down to third. She'll take the final step podium in class, but the top step overall, Richard Antonucci, he may very well have the keys to VIR. It looks like he certainly owns the place because he did on the racetrack this weekend. Lamborghini Super Trofeo, Jeremy, this is exactly what I thought we would see here this weekend.
Yeah, tremendous racing. And Richard Antonucci, he's a hugely talented driver. He might be 40 years old now, but he's lost absolutely no speed. A really, really good victory over Sergio Jimenez there. A really good result for the Brazilian as well in second position. But tremendous racing, and we'll be doing it all again in a few weeks' time.
A few weeks' time, indeed. And think about it, VIR, built in 1957. We go to Watkins Glen next, built in 1956. And the third racetrack down the road, Road America, 1955, a very historic section here in the 2021 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Championship. Great run for everyone. Congratulations to our winners in all four classes from Virginia International Raceway. We'll see you next time from Watkins Glen.